Clinical psychologist is a big label, and I just want to bring myself down to size straight away. Many years ago, when my daughter was at school, her teacher asked her what her father did, and she said, "He's a clinical psychologist." And the teacher said, "What does a clinical psychologist do?" And she thought for a moment, and she said, "He makes sad people happy. He's like a clown." Don't you love kids? So, I stand before you either as a health professional with some competence or a clown. But I certainly stand before you with a long-standing interest, a 35-year clinical history of working with people, helping people try to find happiness in their lives. And this is a very practical presentation. It's not an academic, theoretical argument, but it's an observation and simple truths about people's lives that I've distilled from my practice. And I want to share with you, and it's the cornerstone of my book, When Happiness Is Not Enough. It's really looking at providing a template for ordinary people who are seeking happiness, to actually find a personal plan to find happiness in their own lives. Now, happiness is such a big picture kind of concept. Happiness, wellness, well-being, fulfillment. These are all the kinds of words that we know that's what we're here for. We're trying to understand them. But then you come to an event like this, or you read self-help books, there's a scattergun of approaches. Smile, phone a friend, go for a run, go for a walk in the park. What do I need to do? Or more importantly, what do you need to do to bring more happiness into your life? So I'm providing you with a template this afternoon. The book provides you with a template to just bring some kind of structure, some kind of clarity to this search for happiness. So what's my contribution to the happiness debate? It's essentially that there are two types of happiness. Firstly, the popular concept of happiness, which is happiness described as pleasure in the moment. So this is endemic, it's in the air at this conference today. It's about looking for joy, being appreciative of the moment, embracing life, just feeling so good about those heartfelt moments, just absorbing and consuming life as it is right here, right now. So this is the kind of happiness which we find through mindfulness, through relaxation, through meditation, through yoga. It's the kind of happiness that Luna Park offers too, which is kind of curious, but it's a sort of happy, relaxed, fun version of happiness. But is that kind of happiness in itself enough? The complementary kind of happiness, which we all know about, but we tend to leave to one side, is the happiness that's defined as satisfaction through achieving a meaningful or purposeful goal. And throughout the presentations today, we've heard several people refer to the need to find meaning and purpose in their life. And it's when you can marry a meaningful, purposeful, goal-oriented search for happiness, which is located somewhere in the future. It's an effortful search for happiness. It doesn't just come through being in the moment now and being open to experiencing happiness through your senses. It's more a search for happiness through effortful use of your cardiovascular system. It's hard work, and it's the satisfaction and the pride of achieving something, making a difference every day and throughout the course of your life. So there's two types of happiness, and there's two types of people. There are people who look for happiness in the moment, and they will look back over their lives and they will remember the good times they've had. And there are people who look for happiness through satisfaction, through goal attainment. And those are the sorts of people which will look back and they'll remember the things that they've achieved. They want to leave a legacy. They want to make changes, and they find a deep satisfaction in the things that they've done. So there's a kind of being and a doing, yin-yang sort of thing going on. So some positive words associated with pleasure orientation: joy, sensuality, fun, relaxation, happiness, calm, warmth, laughter, contentment. That is where you find love, if that's something that spins your wheels. Positive words associated with achievement: It's a different collection of words. Pride, purpose, satisfaction, courage, energy, drive, enthusiasm, focus, success. Could add in ambition. And if we were at a conference focusing on perhaps more corporate motivational presentations, or perhaps sporting symposia, these are the words that spin people's wheels. There's a whole lot of people in society who are really drawn to these kind of words. They like to bring energy and enthusiasm to their life. And it's great. Neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just a different kind of way of accessing the thrill and embracing life. So I've pulled these two things together to a simple sentence. It's a simple maxim or an organizational statement. It's a simple truth that you can carry through your complex life, and it just allows you at every minute of every day, for every decision you make, whether it's a moment-by-moment decision or a life phase decision, whether to leave a job or what to do next. But the pleasure achievement principle states that in order to live a fulfilling life, we need to strike a considered balance between pleasure and achievement. And it's as simple as that. And you can carry that maxim through your life. You can ask, do I need to go faster or slow down? Do I need to look ahead or do I need to look around? Do I need to do more or do I need to be more? And this simple question just allows you to start working on your own personal plan for happiness. Most of you in the room will have a pleasure orientation, and you will need to start thinking a little bit more about how to bring more meaning and purpose into your lives. Others will have an achievement orientation and need to go the other way. You need to think a little bit more about finding those micro moments of pleasure in the moment. Just a word about balance. Balance isn't 50-50. It's not a prescribed 60-40 arrangement or anything that an expert or a textbook is going to tell you. It's not being 100% achievement at work or 5% achievement at the weekend. It's for you to decide, and it's a subjective kind of feeling that you get, that you know that your life is slightly out of balance. You're too achievement-oriented, or perhaps you're a little bit sluggish, you're a little bit slow out of the couch, you're a little bit too indulgent, you stay too long at parties, at lunch, you go for coffee with friends rather than the gym, you spend more time in bars than you do, bars and cinemas and restaurants rather than gyms and libraries, and you don't know that perhaps your life is slightly out of kilter. And of course, modern society, as we've heard today, can draw you so badly out of balance. It can, with the invitations as a consumer to just absorb unhealthy pleasures by and large. You go to a convenience store, it's fizzy drinks, it's fried foods, it's alcohol, DVDs, entertainment. TV is broadcasting 24/7 pleasure at you. And our job in society, by and large, is simply to consume and to spend our money on pleasure. So we can get drawn off balance that way. We can also get drawn the other way, towards achievement. And we've never had such great demands placed upon us with the 24/7 connectivity through mobile devices. We've also never had so many expectations that we've placed on ourselves. Years ago, we would be happy just to keep up with the Joneses who live down the road. These days, we have to keep up with the Kardashians, and we do. And we try so hard. There are no limits to our expectations of the way we live our lives. It used to be that you would go on an overseas trip perhaps twice in a lifetime, and you'd be feeling pretty good about that. These days, if you haven't been overseas twice by about June, July, then it's a pretty lean year. So you can see that suddenly we have to make these decisions. We have to make considered decisions about staying in balance. Now, balance isn't that midpoint. It's more of a dynamic balance, leaning either side. And I love this slide behind me because we're talking about leaning towards pleasure with confidence, leaning towards achievement with confidence, and playing off that midline, not just always staying set one side or the other, but having the confidence to enjoy the parties, to be able to have a joke, to be able to relax and enjoy the company of others, but also to really get purposeful and goal-oriented and make a difference to your life. So we want a dynamic balance where we play around the midline. But we don't lean so far towards pleasure or so far towards achievement that we fall off. And I guess that's where, as a clinical psychologist, there are all these different pathological states, I guess. Didn't want to say that word, but it's where people have fallen too far into the pleasurable world. So obviously obesity, depressive states where we self-soothe with pleasure in a desperate attempt to become more, to get out of that depression, and a whole lot of the self-control problems around drugs and alcohol, gambling. They're all defined as prioritizing the pleasure of the moment against the achievement of weight loss or health or financial considerations. But on the other side, if you fall off towards the achievement side of things, and there's a slide to show all this, we become driven and we become stressed, anxious. We're trying to achieve safety. We're always looking ahead to find the happiness through doing something to mitigate against the problems of the now. Also, people try to achieve standards. It's just not goals out ahead. So obsessive compulsive people, always looking, and I was reminded when Ruby talked about anorexia earlier, anorexics, they're desperately trying to achieve body shape, and it's at a total personal cost. They don't enjoy, they've lost the art of enjoying food. And I'll just think about dieting for a moment. Pleasure-oriented people will diet by trying to restrict their pleasures. Achievement-oriented people will try and diet by building fitness and muscle tone. Of course, we need to find a balance there. So there's a whole lot of psychopathology on either side of the balance. I don't really want to talk any more about that, even though as a clinician it's very interesting. I want to bring us back and think about happy. So coming back to happy, let's take any situation, and the situation I'm suggesting is just going to the beach. And I was at Manly Beach on the weekend. When we go to the beach, our natural preferences play out. Most people, in my experience, go to the beach to spread out a towel, to feel the warmth of the sun, to be with others, and to just indulge in the wonder of being alive. So you will be in a classic mindful situation, pleasure in the moment. You'll feel the warmth of the sun, you'll listen to the gulls and the surf, children playing. It's a being here now kind of happiness. We're going to the beach just to be at the beach. There's another kind of person that goes to the beach, and Manly Beach was full of them. They're doing things. They're going to the beach to train. They're running, they're swimming. There was a surfing competition going on. There were all of these beach volleyball courts, and it was all graded, so you could go up through the competitions, and there was lessons about beach volleyball. To me, it was just a riot of competitive achievement. And I guess going to the beach, we need to blend those two orientations together, to be able to see the beach as an outdoor gym, but also to see it as a wonderful place to just relax. Psychologists look at people's lives in three segments, the current lives: home, work, and leisure. The point of this slide is just to let you know that work-life balance isn't going like a train at work and then just chilling out or partying hard at the weekend. You want balance in each of those three segments. So very quickly, we'll just look at work, at home. Happiness at home, there's a lot of tasks and busyness at home. There's also lots of opportunities to relax. Just make sure that you are house proud, that you do your housework, and that you enjoy the satisfaction of a tidy house, a clean house, but also that you make time and you have situations in your daily schedule at home where you genuinely relax. The armchair, the pool of sunlight, the couch, or the incense and the candles in the bathroom. The main thing about home, though, is the relationships at home. And I could talk a lot more about this, but it's very important. Is the dynamic within your family a dynamic of doing things together and looking to achieve, or is it just being together and being engaged as a family? And there's a different language in the two sides of this. The compliments, do you compliment your children for what they've done or for who they are? Are your family photos of fancy dress and heads in the porridge, or are they photos of certificates and trophies? What are you teaching your kids about life? That happiness is about getting ahead, getting to a better school, getting into the orchestra, moving ahead, or is it just about being happy and engaged with those around you, that life is fun here and now? At work, the overriding thing is work too cruisy, which I don't think many people have these days, but that's not satisfying in the long term. Or is it too stressful? And most of us, it's too stressful. The demands are huge, and we need to manage those stresses. So there's a whole lot of stress management skills around getting that into balance. And some of the creativity that we've just heard about is a great way of bringing some pleasure and enjoyment into a stressful work environment. Basically at work, we want to have fun, which is the engagement between team members. It's like a good sports team. You're really enjoying being together and you're working together towards a common goal, and that your own personal values are aligned with the values of the organization. And it's also energizing. Every post's a winning post. It does have that wonderful feeling of being a purposeful, meaningful job that you do. And very quickly, it doesn't have to be a wonderful sort of ethically, morally empowering kind of goal for your company. I once coached a lady that worked for a water company, a distribution company, and she said every time she turned on the tap, she felt a burst of pride, and she just was so pleased with the company she worked for and the job that she did. And it was just wonderful because, I started, there it goes, water coming out of the tap, electrical company, getting stuff across town, it's just great. Happiness in your leisure, this is where it plays out most of all. Are you passive or are you active? Are you just sort of hanging out with friends, or are you busy being competitive with friends? A great question to notice here is when your friends meet you, do they say, "How are you?" or do they say, "What have you been up to?" And it sets up a very different conversation. What have you been up to requires you to say what you've done, and then they tell you what they've done, and it's great, but it's a bit exhausting. How are you is in the moment, and it's an invitation to connect here and now. And if ever you're in trouble, your pleasure-oriented friends will listen to you. They'll be with you. They'll lend you their ear. If you're in trouble and your friends are achievement-oriented, they will give you a hand. So just before I finish, we can look across the vast arc of our lives. We all start off as young newborn babies, and for us, pleasure is all about just being here in the moment, warm nappies, full tummies. It goes right through. We learn to become more developmental and reaching goals and proud. Happiness is pride during the primary school years. Teenage years are a nightmare. This model applies so well to teenagers. We're trying to balance the pleasures and the indulgences of youth with achievement of sporting success and grades, but right through to the end. And in retirement, I do a lot of talks to older groups. Just how do you spend that last 20 years of your life? Is it just drinking champagne and going on cruises and watching sunsets? Or is there something meaningful that you can bring to your life? So, what's this presentation all been about? It's an invitation to you to stop and think about, is your life in balance? Is there enough pleasure and achievement in your life? Do you need to speed up or do you need to slow down? Do you need to tighten up or loosen up? Do you need to look ahead or do you need to look around? Do you need to do more or be more? Those are the questions I would ask. And the overriding question is there enough pleasure or enough achievement in your life? Thank you so much for listening.
If you go to this supermarket and shouting, "I want to buy peace of mind," then people laughing, or people feel that person's mind is something wrong.
Now, this word connections is a really interesting one because our kids today are more connected than ever.
Of course, then when you're in an institution, people call you up. They tell you to perk up. Yeah, perk up, because I didn't think of that.
I should have a happiness project, I decided. As soon as I have some free time, I'm going to do that.